Hi, and welcome back to David Pattinson's Accused Friends, out here on the patio. I did a video yesterday previewing the US presidential election, and it was really just a fly-on-the-wall preview, explaining the fact that I lived in Washington, D.C. for a lot of years and had some unique insights into Washington and how I enjoyed living there, but I found it to be a very corrupt place, and I found it to be somewhere where the power structure is intent on subverting democracy rather than protecting and strengthening democracy. I did not anticipate that it'd be less than 24 hours before I was doing another video showcasing this subversion of democracy by Washington as an outcome of the presidential election, but that's essentially what happened. I predicted a big Trump victory. I think that's what we got, and it's amazing that, there's 5 swing states with Trump showing the lead, in the middle of the night, and they decide to stop counting in all of them and then say, well, we need to count every vote. Well, if you want to count every vote, why are you calling off the people that are counting the votes? And this is an example of the way Washington works. This is politics, this is media manipulation. This is how the establishment is looking to save face. They have predicted a massive Trump defeat pretty much ever since he started his political run for the presidency, as I talked about yesterday. And every time there's an election, he wins big. He always beats all the pollsters, he always beats all the experts, he always defies the odds, and it's because his popularity is much greater than that of the Washington establishment or their representatives. People like Joe Biden, people like Hillary Clinton, people like Jeb Bush, whoever is running against. I want to have a couple of caveats with this video. I mean, I am a British citizen. I think we spend far too much time in Great Britain worrying about what's going on in the United States. And this is by design. This is by the British government using American sort of issues, cultural issues, electoral issues, financial issues, to govern our country and to divide our country. I mean, we had all that nonsense through the summer with the George Floyd, and people say, look, David, this George Floyd stuff's really serious. It's nothing to do with us. What happens in the United States is nothing to do with us, but this George Floyd stuff was portrayed as this is our fault. This is a reflection on how we live our lives. This is a reflection on how we police our citizens, and of course it's nothing to do with it. But we import these American problems deliberately, and we have, I think, an excessive interest in USA politics. So whenever we talk about world news on the news, it's always about what's going on in the United States. Well, what about what's going on in Brazil? What about what's going on in Argentina? What about what's going on in Zimbabwe? What about what's going on in Nigeria? We never talk about those countries. So we present this sort of false image to the British people of, the world as in the United States. And if things are not going, the right way over there, we've all got to be really worried about it. And it's an example of this media manipulation. I mean, we've seen it so much through the coronavirus. You're not allowed to have freedom of speech. You're not even allowed to have freedom of thought. You got to be constantly doing and agreeing with whatever the British media say, which is just a propaganda vehicle for the British government. And, in the United States, this election and the previous election with Trump and Clinton, it really exposed the extent to which the media manipulation is in place. And you've seen it with things like Twitter banning the Hunter Biden story, censoring it. Twitter's out there censoring President Trump's tweets nowadays. And, this crazy scenario of not allowing these states to finish off their counting of the votes, to show a big Trump victory, and to present a a false perception to the American people of a close election or a contested election or anything but a Trump victory is what it is, because the media have to save face. They've gone out on a limb with all these polls, which are not designed to reflect opinion. They are designed to shape opinion and to demoralize Trump supporters, to present a fait accompli. They did it with Hillary Clinton, same thing. She had like the 93% chance of winning on election day. And of course, when this false perception and this media manipulation bumps into electoral reality, there's this massive fissure. There's this what's the word I'm looking for? It's a you're seeing something with your own eyes that doesn't match what you've been told. And of course, in the last election, the media lost a ton of credibility, just like they did here with the Brexit. They overplay their hand because they're trying to shape opinion. And then, when results don't go their way, it's not that they're incompetent. It's not that they don't know what they're doing. And of course, they do know what they're doing. It's not that they're incompetent. It's that they're trying to manipulate the citizenry. They're not trying to give the citizens the accurate information of what's going on. They're not trying to represent the people against the government. They're trying to represent the government against the people. Big media is the government. And, I've thought a long time about, these big tech companies. Why do we have to have all our communications through American technology companies? Why don't we just ban them all in Britain and have our own? Surely is part of our national security, that we should be protecting our own communications rather than have them filtered through California, through Silicon Valley. But of course, the government is in bed with big technology to spy on the citizens and to shape opinion. And, that's what they're doing more and more and more. And the people are rejecting it. That's why, Trump wins his elections. People have had enough of it. And, it's this dividing line, I suppose. The establishment want to have control. And, the people don't want to be controlled by the government. They want to have their freedom. They want to have freedom of speech. They want to have freedom of religion, freedom of choice, freedom of their own thoughts. And, the government want to have a myopic, singular, uniform conformity of thought, a conformity of speech, conformity of behavior. And, it's about protecting the establishment, protecting their power base, rather than the establishment being servants of the people. It's the illusion of democracy rather than the reality of democracy. That's what I'm all about. I'm about the reality of democracy. So I think Trump's been treated, not well. All you need to do is count these votes. But of course, they didn't want to count them because they were not going to give the Biden victory that they wanted. They were trying to prevent the Trump victory by stopping counting the votes. That's the reason for it. And now we're in this disputed situation. So I think Trump will still win, but it leaves a sour taste. It kind of creates a perception of illegitimacy, of not winning fair and square. And this is a situation in America. This is what it is. I suppose I'm making this video just because I have a unique insight into what goes on there, and it's nice to be able to share it. But I do think we, as a country, Great Britain, spend far too much time getting involved in United States politics. And again, it's done by design. There was nothing wrong with following the presidential election, taking interest, all this sort of stuff. But we try to transpose their problems onto our society. And their problems are their problems. Our problems are our problems. We're two separate countries. And this media complex run out of the United States and the big tech complex, we need to get them out of our lives. That's not our problem. They can worry about the United States. We need to be looking after ourselves. We need to have our own communication, and we need to put caps on all this government propaganda through the media. I mean, we have all this 24-hour news. We have all these politicians that are constantly tweeting to people and all this sort of stuff. Why don't we just put a cap on all that? How about we have 1 hour a day of news? and then the rest of the time we could just talk amongst ourselves. We can, entertain ourselves, we can live our own lives, we can have our own jobs. Why do we have to constantly have this sort of barrage of propaganda from the government, from elected officials, which is not healthy, which is not about uniting our people, it's about dividing our people. And, I've talked about this a lot. I mean, we have these TVs in public spaces, always, Sky News and dramatic news and propaganda news. And I think it's unhealthy for us. I think we've got to have caps on it. I don't want to hear from Boris Johnson. Well, I don't want to hear from Boris Johnson ever. But, all these government ministers, you can't go about your lives without hearing from them. And I did another video about terrorism and, how is it a bad thing if a foreign organization is perpetuating terror onto the British people, but it's okay if it's the British government. I mean, it's not okay. Terrorism and the fomentation of terrorism is a bad thing, doesn't matter who's doing it. And all this government propaganda is fomenting terror, and it's designed to keep the powerful powerful and keep the people subservient. And that's not what our country should be all about. So I wanted to wrap up this video. I think my prediction of a Trump victory was correct. It's a little less than I thought. It is pretty much the same victory as he had 4 years ago against Hillary Clinton in the same election. I talked about how he wanted to change this election to be about his accomplishments, but he after the lockdown, self-inflicted, it's gone back to being about Make America Great Again, and it was a similar election, as a similar result. And it's just that the media and the Democratic Party do not want to accept the result because it embarrasses them, it undermines them, and we'll see where it ends up. But I hope you like this video. I hope this insight's been interesting for you. Thanks a lot for watching this. Please subscribe to the channel, and we'll talk to you soon.